Tuesday, March 11, 2014, 7:15 a.m. The shower is running, and I have an almost uninterrupted view of Justine's figure. Well, the steam has misted the glass a bit. She has her back to me and is rinsing her hair, face towards the nozzle, using both hands to smooth out the conditioner. I lie on my side on the bed watching, head propped up on my hand. Later, she's standing in the walk-in robe, wet hair combed back, brushing her teeth, and flicking through my clothes. "You know," she says through a mouthful of toothpaste, "you've got a lot of clothes." She goes back to the sink to spit out, rinse, spit out again. She goes back to the robe and flicks through some more. "Yes, I brought some with me, the other stuff I got here on a spending spree. Some fancy labels. You know, I don't really much care for them. I shop at Target half the time. It's all in how you put things together. And you do that perfectly. Can't work this out, though," she says, pulling out my civil jeans on their hanger. "It's all back to front. It would read civil if the letters themselves weren't the wrong way round." "Yep, that's what you get with cheap knockoffs from China. Either that or sometimes the whole template they use gets reversed and the whole batch turns out wrong. And then there's these suits. You've obviously had them for a while, but the jacket pocket and the buttons are on the wrong side. Hey, these labels are all reversed as well. Got them all at the same place. Harbour Town had a special on misprints." I'm putting on my shoes and feeling bad about lying. But how can I possibly tell her everything in the few minutes remaining before we go to work? It'll have to keep until tonight. "You know, I've just remembered who you remind me of." Justine walks into the bedroom and flops down on her back onto the bed next to me. I'm sitting on the edge, leaning over, tying my shoelaces. "Do tell." "This guy Carl, who I used to deal with over Picklejig's affairs. I wonder whatever happened to him. He looked very much like you. Much older, though, with less hair, but still cute." "Ooh." "Why ooh?" Justine sits up frowning. "You don't even know the guy." You know, other guys." She slaps my shoulder. "You're disappointing me. I thought you were okay about my past." "Of course I am. It's just your mention of some older guy who looks like me." Justine looks at me quizzically as I say this. "You can be strange, you know that?" "Talking about your past," I stand to go to the dressing table where I keep my cufflinks. "Might Ian have any more damaging information about you?" "Yes, I murdered someone once and kept his body in a rug in my car boot." "No, you idiot. What do you think?" "Sorry, I didn't mean to imply anything. I just get the feeling Ian will fling whatever mud he can find. I suppose we should prepare for the worst." "Well, I'm pretty darn boring, aside from the part-time work I did while I was at uni. And it was only recently that Ian even found out about that." "How did he find out?" "I would normally never reveal the identity of a client, but since he betrayed me, I don't give a stuff about betraying him. Registrar Highclere. He and Ian are mates, members of an exclusive little club. Anyway, Highclere was one of my regulars. When he saw Ian with me at a function, it seems he couldn't help himself but tell all." "What a knob. I appeared before Highclere just last week," I said, putting on my tie. "What about you? Any dirt for Ian to dig up?" "I don't know." "You don't volunteer much information, do you?" "Maybe that's because there isn't much to volunteer," I say, laughing. "Aren't you a bit worried about the unfinished man business?" "Ian was kidding, surely. Just an idle threat." "I don't know. He can be pretty physical, as you've seen. He never actually hit me, but I get the feeling it was heading that way. You saw how he shook me at the basketball game. I think he was going to do the same thing when he grabbed me yesterday morning. I'm sure he's physical when it comes to rival males. And you dented his manhood quite badly by staying the night at my place." "Well, if he tries anything, I'll just have to pull a few of my own moves on him." "What are those, duck and run?" "Ha ha. You might not believe it, but I know a thing or two. I've been watching the other Dan Djurdjevic's videos." Watching videos isn't quite the same thing as knowing how to fight, now is it? Whose side are you on exactly? I ask, smiling, and leaning in to give her a kiss. I'm hoping to catch the tram. Hopefully, if we don't arrive together, we'll attract less attention and less of Ian's ire. Good plan, she says, pulling me back in by the tie for another kiss. I won't be too far behind in my car. I just have to get dressed and paint my face. See you at lunch? I smile and nod. 9:29 a.m. I'm trying to get used to working without Silvio. I'm missing him terribly. Carmel, Silvio's replacement, is a doer sort, and I wonder if we're going to get along. She's a small bird of a woman, with very thick, dark eyebrows that distract me terribly when I talk to her. This arrived for you, she says, dumping a magazine on my desk. You're in it. She turns on a heel and walks out. I take a look. Lawyers Weekly. I flick through with a knot forming rapidly in my stomach. I remember now that email from Susan, Ian's PA. It was probably about this. Why didn't I read it? I might have been able to stop it in time. I eventually find the article on page 8. There's a picture of me taken by Jennifer on my first day and a short bio. It says I've moved to Melbourne. This is possibly the worst result I could have imagined. Dixon will be getting his own copy in about 3 hours' time. I don't know how this can be explained. Justine walks in abruptly. Her lips are pursed, and there are tears welling in her eyes. I'm thinking Ian has done something, but then again she's carrying a file, which she holds out. Maybe it's a work issue that has somehow upset her. You know, I found out a few things this morning. Interesting things. I say nothing. I have no idea where this is heading. For example, she pulls up a chair and sits down very formally, her back straight. I double-checked the pickle jig file. She flops the file on the desk in front of me and starts flicking through the pages with trembling hands, pausing to lick her index finger every now and again. He has a very interesting residential address. Care to take a punt on what it might be? I say nothing. No? Justine turns a few more pages. There it is. Wouldn't you know? It's exactly where you're staying. Really? My voice breaks as I say this. Yes, really. Funny that. 2 months ago you'd never met the man. But now you're living in his house, drinking his wine, using his studio, probably wearing his clothes. That's... I begin, but Justine holds her hand up to silence me. Then there's this charming article in Lawyers Weekly. She opens to page 8. Lovely, isn't it? You look so sweet in this photo. But hey, there's another article about you on page 18. And you know what that one says? She pauses to find the right line, her index finger trembling even more. Oh, here we are. Dan Djurdjevic from Dixon, Cox and Peters is currently on assignment in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. He is missing his wife and friends. Now, isn't that interesting? I thought I might have read it wrong because you can't possibly be in 2 places at the same time, can you? So I also double-checked that. In fact, I triple-checked it. But the dates pretty much match up. Either I'm just imagining you're here, or else you've lied to your wife and everyone in Perth. How am I doing? It's not what you think. The situation is quite a lot more complicated. But it really doesn't get simpler than this, now does it? Look what fell out of those knockoff jeans at your house, or should I say Picklejig's house. I was walking back to the bathroom and saw it on the carpet. She pulls something out of her pocket and flings it on the desk in front of me. I hear it pinging as it bounces and rolls about a bit. It's my wedding ring. I'd say the puzzle pieces are starting to fit together perfectly, wouldn't you? I can explain. It'll take a while. There's a lot to say. Let me explain it for you. You're married. Your wife thinks you're in Kuala Lumpur. Meanwhile, you've gone through your uncle's house in Perth, found a key to his friend's Melbourne place, and decided to go and squat there. While you were at it, you started a whole new life pretending to be someone you're not. Instead of facing whatever problems you had, you ran away and created some sort of fantasy world. What kind of sick person does that? I didn't do that, really. There's a long story. Save it? She's holding her hand up and turning away. It's a story I've heard before. You want to leave your wife, but you don't want to divorce her because you'll lose everything, so you lie to people like me. You promise things you can't deliver. When you've found out, you lie even more. You even lied to your neighbour, telling her your name was Picklejig. What did you say to her? That you were his nephew? Oh boy, I can tell from your face that I'm right on the money. You really are no different to Ian, just a lot less able. Where he succeeds with money and charm, you succeed with your pathetic Walter Mitty act. It's not an act. Underneath it all, you're just a cold, scheming, what's-in-it-for-me bastard. You know the biggest difference between you and Ian? He's a much, much better liar. Ian might not be right about most things, but I have to agree with him on this one. You're pathetic. I can't imagine what made you think you could get away with this. I don't even know what this is. It's not like that. Okay, tell me this one thing, yes or no. Does your wife have any idea that you're in Melbourne? She scans my face, waiting for a response. No. I didn't think so. Justine gets up and walks towards the door, where she pauses and says quietly, "Don't ever contact me again. And stay away from Zara and the other boys. If you really must, send them a thumb drive of the music you've done, by snail mail. Do you even know anything about sound engineering? Or did you make it all up as you went along? Personally, I don't care. I'll be telling the boys not to bother with you, because you're simply not worth it." And with that she walks out. I pick up the ring and hold it between my fingers. I look on the inside. Kylie's name is written Kyrie in Greek letters, followed by the date of our wedding, but it's all backwards. It looks like some sort of elvish writing from The Lord of the Rings. There's a soft knock on the door. A gently smiling Ian is standing in the doorway, leaning on the doorframe. I couldn't help but overhear that exchange. Of course, I had some idea it was coming, since I was the one who told Justine about the address business. You see, after our little fracas yesterday, I went home and called Susan. Got her digging straight away. She was at it until late last night. I have to tell you, she is most unhappy with you. Doesn't like her public holidays taken away. No one likes that. But, he sighs, had to be done. Ian moves into the room and leans back against the chair in which Justine was sitting a moment earlier. You know what your undoing was? Having 2 articles in the one magazine. Probably didn't intend for the KL one to happen, eh? Someone in Perth just wrote it for you. Or maybe you thought it got pulled on time, but it hadn't. Regardless, it tipped me off. So I got Susan to check your address, Princess Hill. I thought, why does that sound familiar? I rang the manager of our property division, our darling Branca. I said to her, do we know anyone in Princess Hill? She said, a few years back we did that big settlement for a property in Princess Hill purchased by Mr. Picklejig. Then there was that planning approval appeal regarding the basement. You went and argued the matter yourself, remember? And I thought, yes, I do remember that. I remember it so very well. He pauses, but I say nothing. I have a feeling I know what's coming. So imagine my surprise when I checked and found that you were living at the very same address, the address of a property we happen to manage. We have an ongoing brief to be alert for squatters. Mr. Picklejig is very anxious about them. He's a very private man. Which brings me to you, a down-on-his-luck, sad-sack loser from a 2-bit law firm at the arse end of the world wanting an escape, some adventure perhaps. A man who goes through his uncle's stuff, finds a key and a matching address. Then in some fit of madness, some sort of midlife crisis, decides to move to Melbourne, all on the basis of some rather pathetically transparent lies. A new life, built like a house of cards. He leans in menacingly, so that he's only a foot away from my face. I can smell his coffee breath again. His mouth smiles, but his eyes don't, as he says, well, buddy, you've just been busted. He pulls away and says, make sure you've cleaned up your things and left the building in 10 minutes, or I'll call security. Hell, I'll throw you out myself. Like Justine before him, he pauses at the door for a final word. And we still have that other unfinished business, don't we? If you feel differently, please remember that breaking and entering is an offence, one that I, as an officer of the court, am honour-bound to report. Unless, of course, the whole matter can be dealt with summarily. Oh, I look forward to that, Mitty. You should too. It's a lesson neither of us will forget. Think of it as a bonding experience. I think I can hear him chuckling as he walks down the corridor. No sooner has he left than I see Carmel standing in the doorway, holding an empty cardboard box. I can see it is way too big for my meagre possessions, particularly since I won't be needing the McMahon's paraphernalia, like the desk clock and paperweights. 10:50 a.m. I'm at home now, in the basement. I'm looking at the computer screen, reading an email from D1 sent this morning. It's more bad news. Dear D2, I'm sorry to inform you that the time has come. We've managed to wrap things up today, so I'm flying back to Perth tonight. I'll be going by taxi straight to the Wanneroo house. I'll be wanting that ring printed over tomorrow, if that's okay, and the list of things I need to know for the Melbourne job. Hey mate, I'm sorry to do this to you, but I'm going to have to catch a flight over on Friday. I'll need you gone by then. Remember, it was always part of the plan. It can't be helped. D1. I shake my head. I don't know how to reply. Poor D1 is in for a frightful shock. I'm going to have to break the news to him gently. I'll try to tell him by Skype tomorrow. He'll have to stay in Perth. Say that the lawyer's weekly report about moving to Melbourne was a misprint. He probably won't want to try reconciling with Kylie, but at least he can divorce her and start afresh. Just as I think this, I get a second email. P.S. I penned a long note to Frank. I didn't say anything about you, but I told him about KL and Teresa. I told him I'd be moving to Melbourne on my own terms, not by using the printers. I hope he's okay with that. Anyway, whatever you do, don't contact him, okay? It'll ruin everything we've been working towards. I know I can count on you. My heart is now beating as fast as it's ever gone. I'm starting to break into a sweat, and I'm feeling quite dizzy. I realize I haven't made a backup of myself in ages. Right now would probably be a good time. I'll do that first. After that, I'll call Frank by Skype and sort the whole wretched mess out. I'm hoping he'll understand and forgive me. I open Profile Generator 3.2, press the record button, then walk towards the booth and close the door. I hear the lock click and I know the process has started. A few seconds later, I hear it click again, and I know that the recording is complete. I open the door and start walking towards the computer screen. I notice that, for some strange reason, the power saver has come on. Normally it takes an hour before that happens. That's how I've adjusted the settings. At least I thought I had. I prod the mouse and see that the desktop clock is out too. It reads 9:06 p.m. How strange. And Skype is on. In fact, I can see Frank's seat on his veranda, although it is empty. It seems to be early morning there. I don't remember hearing Frank call me, and even if he had, I would have had to answer for this screen to be open. What in the world is going on? Abruptly, I hear an anguished cry from above. It's a woman's voice. I start running up the stairs. At the same time, I hear Frank's voice over the Skype connection. Nephew, are you there? Answer me. Hey, I can see you, buddy. Stop for a second. But I'm running, and I'm not going to stop. Something is happening, and it sounds urgent. I'll see to it first, then talk to Frank. After all, I've learned the hard way. You can't be in two places at the same time.